There was nothing else at all in the whole world but football.
Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Simon here from the FFF, and yes, that is right, I do have a brand new theme tune for you. It's absolutely brilliant. I do love it. I know it sounds like I'm going to be a bit arrogant here and toot my own horn, but my fucking god, it is a banger of a theme tune. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do, because it's putting a big smile on my face. But however, this is the FFF Show, and this is a chat that I had with Mike. I usually do these things a day after these little introductions, but it was actually just, about 5 minutes ago, and we've just had the chat, and it was a really bloody good chat that we had. We talked all about the craziness that's been going on, managerially wise. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has just been sacked as the manager of Man United, so now that's a vacancy that's open. Obviously, Dean Smith going in as the new Norwich manager just after being sacked at Aston Villa. Steven Gerrard is now the manager of Aston Villa. Eddie Howe is the new manager of Newcastle. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on at the moment, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And over in Germany, Bayern Munich just lost. We talked a little bit about that. St. Pauli getting tanked 4-0. Arsenal getting tanked 4-0. But hopefully we talked about how all of those just could potentially just be blips. And hopefully they're all going to be blips for all those teams involved. Well, the intention was to talk a little bit about La Liga, but unfortunately I just didn't get around to it. But it was just really how interesting La Liga is at the moment. It's a 4-horse race between Real Madrid, who are in top spot, and then you've got Real Sociedad and Sevilla that are in second and third, and then you've got Atletico Madrid, who are only 4 points behind in fourth. So it's an extremely tight race there, and I do think Real Madrid are probably going to clinch it at the end of the season. I think they've just got what it takes. They've got some quality superstar players there, and with Ancelotti at the helm, I think he's going to be able to just guide them to that La Liga title. I think Atletico are probably out of those four teams going to push them the hardest. Barcelona, I think Barcelona will challenge for a top four, but I don't think they'll be able to sort of mount a serious challenge for the title. I think the damage that was done at the start of the season for Barcelona is just far too great, and I think they've left themselves with an absolute mountain to climb, and I just don't think they've got it in them. But I think in the next season, I think they will challenge again for La Liga. I think Xavi will give them that beautiful sort of tiki-taka identity that we've all come to know and realise with Barcelona. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I also wanted to talk about Serie A, but just didn't get round to it. You've got Napoli, who are currently in the lead at the moment, and then AC Milan and Inter Milan in that sort of 3-horse race. Because I think Napoli and AC are actually on equal points, and then you've got Inter Milan that are only 4 points behind. So it's a really interesting race, and who knows what's going to happen. If I sort of had to make a bold claim, I'd probably say AC Milan are gonna win it this year. I think the likes of Zlatan there, and Giroud I think is there as well. They've made some really decent signs. Tomori, obviously the former Chelsea defender. I think they've kind of got what it takes, and I think they will come away with the title. I think it would have hurt them last year to see Inter Milan win it, and I don't think Inter Milan are the team that they were last year. I don't think the manager Inzaghi is anywhere near the levels of what Conte is as manager, and I think that's going to give an opportunity for a new team to claim the Serie A title, and I think it's going to be AC Milan. So yeah, that's my prediction. We'll see at the end of the season, but I think it was a really cool chat that Mike and I had. I hope you guys all enjoy, and I hope you enjoy the theme tune as much as I do, because like I said, it's a banger. Anyway, thanks again guys, take care, and bye bye. So like with all the stuff that's been going on in the Premier League, obviously there's all these new managers, loads of managers being sacked, new managers starting. There's so much to get our teeth stuck into in the Premier League, but before we start there, I thought we'd just start with Germany first, and we have to start with the inevitable St. Pauli. You obviously being a massive St. Pauli fan. Yeah, I know you're not going to be happy, but tell you what, there's a sort of consolation for you in the fact that I'm also a fan of a team that got smashed 4 goals, so 4-0, because it was 4-0 as well, wasn't it, to Darmstadt? Yeah. Good old Arsenal lost to Liverpool 4-0. So yeah, we'll both be a couple of fools suffering during this podcast. But I mean, with St. Pauli, what was your thoughts on the games, and what was your thought on the result?
It was just a really bad day at the office, to be fair. We can't argue too much. I mean, we've had a cracking start to the season. I think we're still top of the league, all there or thereabouts anyway. I kind of just, shut everything down after that result, because it was shocking. I mean, I watched the first half, and it was just so open at the back. They were just walking through us time and time again, and fair play to them. They could have scored more than 4. It was embarrassing. It just wasn't the team that we'd come to know over this season. And to be up 4-0 at half time, I was like, this is going to be a cricket score. But if you have to take silver lining out of the whole thing, they didn't concede anymore in the second half. So but unfortunately, it did mean that it really hampered our goal difference, especially against a team who's also having a good season as well. That's a massive 8-goal swing in the grand scheme of things, and could really harm our chances. But we've still got a long way to go in the season yet. We're not even at Christmas, so it was just a bad day at the office. As long as we can actually pick it back up for, I think, Wednesday, I think we're playing. We've got a midweek game as well as one at the weekend. It was a strong team we put out. I would have liked to have taken a point there, but we can't always get what we want, as it were. So yeah, just got to dust ourselves off, mate, and pick ourselves up for the next one.
Yeah, does it cushion the blow a little bit, knowing that you lost 4-0 to, well, they're top of the league now, so they are a decent team in the league. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They are a decent, solid team. They're having a cracking season as well. I think we've got quite a few sort of surprises that are coming through the Bundesliga. I would have thought that Werder and Schalke and Hamburg would be storming the league this year, and yet if you actually look at the top 3, you've got, you're right, Darmstadt, and that's on that goal difference, that big swinging goal difference. St. Pauli, Paderborn, Jan Regensburg as well, Nuremberg, all teams who sort of were down the lower reaches are actually having a fantastic season. So again, as I've said before, this is the league to watch. It's absolutely fantastic. And, Darmstadt were on a great run of form. If we were going to lose, I would have liked to have done it with a bit of a respectable score. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously hitting form and just they played fantastically in the first half. It was men versus boys at times. It really was. As I say, we've got 2 more games this week, so got to try and get positive and get our head back into things.
You definitely fancy your chances against Sandhausen on Wednesday, though, wouldn't you? Because I think they're about 17th or something at the moment. So it's
17 out of 18. So I would quite fancy our chances at that one. It's at home
as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we've got the fans back. Let's hope that they can just literally get the place rocking, and we should turn them over. And hopefully, obviously, if we win that, that's our game in hand against Darmstadt, and obviously against Paderborn. In fact, we're the only team with a game in hand now, and that was obviously a COVID cancellation. I think they came down with something like 18 positive cases at the club at the time. So rightfully so, they cancelled the match. But if we can win that, we'll go back top of the league by 3 points again. If we don't, okay, it's not time to get concerned, because it's not like we're going to slide down the league and get relegated, touch wood. But it's starting to, do we need to start thinking about shaking things up? He's been, Schultz has been very consistent with his team selection and stuff. And, are they just starting to tire a little bit? We only play a game a week. So, It's not like playing not international, European football or anything. So, yeah, I'd like to think it was just a blip, mate, and we'll pick it back up again on Wednesday.
Are you considering sort of getting rid of Timo Schultz?
No.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I was looking at something else here and then I wasn't really listening. I thought I sort of caught the back end of something. I think I misheard what you were saying there. I zoned out. I do that a lot. Old age.
That's fine, mate. No, he often goes with the same team selection. And I think at the end of the day, players are going to tire and stuff like that. Maybe get a bit complacent if their place is guaranteed. So maybe it's time for him to shake things up. Bring in a few fresh faces for midweek, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'd like to see a respectable 3-0 win on Wednesday and get back some of those goals we conceded on the weekend and get us back top of the league, mate. Get that confidence back up again.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think the job Timo Schultz is doing, and I really apologise for completely mishearing what you're saying there, but because I'm sure you're not in any position of thinking that Timo Schultz needs to be sacked at all, because Timo Schultz is working absolute, well, not miracles, but he's doing really, really well. He's doing a great job for St. Pauli at the moment. And in a way, you could argue that he kind of is working miracles, considering the start of the season they had last season compared to the one that they're having now. It's it's absolutely chalk and cheese. So he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. And you just imagine what he's kind of going to get if he carries on decent recruitment that he's had over the last couple of phases. If he just carries that on, who knows what he can achieve. And it's looking likely that they've definitely got themselves in with a shout for promotion next year. So it's promotion this year, sorry. So it's looking decent.
Yeah, totally agree. I think there was obviously the concerns in the summer when we lost Mamouche and the keeper and Salazar as well, but he's done well with replacing them and kept the main core of the team together. The new guy who's coming in goal, he's been fantastic. Can't overly fault him for any of the goals at the weekend, and every time he's played, he's been steady. So I'm pleased with that one. For the rest of the team, a couple of new defenders in. Yeah, it's very much the same old team from last season, barring those few end of loans. So he's done well. He's done well to completely turn it around, as you say, in technically 11 months from when we were bottom of the league at Christmas last season, or down near the bottom anyway, to being at the moment second, and hopefully after Wednesday top again. It is a miracle. It is a miracle with such the same core. If it had completely ripped up the team, then I could understand, you'd be like, oh yeah, he's doing a good job, but he hasn't. He's just brought on the players, and players like Aramu who have had a bit of a ropey start and didn't really get in, and he's now keeping Smith out the team, so he's really progressed, and he's working with players like that. Kayera as well, another fantastic signing. So yeah, he's doing, I would say, miracles to get us where we are. I'd have been happy to have been 6th, 7th, 8th at this time of the season, but to be second, potentially top after Wednesday is huge for us.
Especially because you're approaching sort of Christmas time as well, and that's usually the sort of the judgment time of where you can really assess where your team's going to challenge and whether they're actually, where they're pretty much going to end up at the end of the season. So it's looking really promising for them. Yeah,
totally agree. And we could blame the weekend's result as well. Obviously, we had the cancelled game against Soundhausen and then went into the international break. Was it a case of they weren't prepared? You would expect after all that period of time, they would actually have, be more prepared. But it could have just been that complacency. And now, obviously, with 2 more games coming up in short succession, hopefully, as I say, it gets the engine started again and we crack on. So, yeah, come Christmas, mate, I'd like to see us still there or thereabouts.
Speaking of engines, the Bayern Munich engine, is that just a blip for them? Is it them losing to Augsburg? Is that essentially just the sort of typical blip that we see from season to season for Bayern Munich, where it's a little bit of stall for the engine, or are they going to be able to sort of pick things back up and keep going and do what they do and just more or less storm the league?
Yeah, I think so. I think all the other teams will probably run out of steam nearer the end of the season. If Bayern have their blip now, after Christmas, once they've had the mid-season break, there'll be no catching them. They'll walk the league by probably 10, 12 points. It is just a traditional blip, as you say. You can't. There's not many teams that will go through a season unbeaten, mate. So yeah, I can only think of one.
I don't know what kind of makes me believe that that they're catchable in a sense is the fact that Dortmund are more or less just a point behind. Well, they are. They're only 1 point behind them, and the fact that Erling Haaland has been out for about a month now, probably a little bit less than that, but he's been out for a significant amount of time, and Dortmund are still in with a big sniff behind them. And what also makes me think Dortmund possibly have a chance is the fact that this is more or less new territory for Bayern Munich in the sense they've got a new manager. So maybe when a new manager comes in, I know Julian Nagelsmann, he's a fantastic manager. He's a brilliant coach. He did fantastic things at RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim, but maybe Bayern Munich's bit sort of new territory for him. And it's a massive step up. And maybe there's a possibility in there for a bit of a slip up. And, I don't think there's there's no handouts for them. And there's no guarantees that they're going to win the league. And if Erling Haaland comes back and Dortmund have an absolute blazer of the rest of their season, then Bayern Munich have got to be worried a little bit. So who knows? Because Bayern Munich could do this dangerous thing where they just get really complacent and think they've pretty much got it in the bag. But that would be a massive mistake in my opinion, because Dortmund are a dangerous unit, especially when they got Haaland back.
I agree. I don't think it will happen because we are talking about one of the best teams in Europe. I don't think complacency will kick in. But I do agree about Dortmund. If they can keep pushing on without Haaland, and then when he comes back and starts, he just scores for fun, doesn't he? So, it's if he can come back and start smashing it again, there's no reason that Dortmund can't push on. I think the problem with Dortmund is they're more prone to these blips than Bayern are. And I think that's the difference. There's 1 point between them at the moment, but that's because they've both won 9 games. Dortmund have just drawn one. Sorry, not Dortmund. Bayern have drawn one and lost 2 as opposed to Dortmund's 3. So there are, I would say, more chances for Dortmund to lose than there are Bayern. And I think if Dortmund sort of light the fire behind them, I think Bayern will just push on harder. I really, really do. I don't think it'll be that much of it. I think, as I say, I think probably they'll end the season on about 10, 12 points ahead. But I think Dortmund will be comfortable in second as well.
Yeah, because I think the sort of chasing pack behind those two, there's a considerable gap at the moment, and I think that's only going to grow. But I think the funny thing is, it's almost, you could argue it's a bit of a tactic for Dortmund at the moment, where they're playing really poorly in the Champions League, and they got smashed by Ajax on 2 occasions. And maybe it's a sort of strategic sort of thing where they're trying to take on, where they're not giving so much credence to playing in Europe, whereas they're focusing a lot more in the Bundesliga. And possibly that's why they're doing quite well in the Bundesliga and only 1 point behind Munich at the moment.
I'd say it's a possibility. It could be that they're sort of sacrificed. If they're looking at it now and thinking that with the way Haaland's playing, now is the time to really push Bayern and go for the league, actually make that statement again, because it's been a good few years since they've actually picked up the Bundesliga title. So it could be that time. It could be that they're willing to sacrifice Europe. They'll still get the money for being in Europe. It's just they may look at it and go, do you know what? This is the first time we've actually got an amazing centre forward. Probably since, wasn't it Lewandowski? Didn't he leave Dortmund for Bayern?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so since then, they've had great players, but Haaland for me is another level. So make the most of him while he's there and really challenge for the Bundesliga. It's possible. It is possible.
Yeah, it could be sort of Haaland's swan song before he goes off to a bigger team, because it's inevitable. He's not going to stay at Dortmund forever, and it's looking quite likely that he's going to leave at the summer. But yeah, you might as well, like you say, get the absolute most out of it whilst you can. Just quickly, a little bit over RB Leipzig. They lost again this weekend, a 2-0 loss to Hoffenheim. And if you think about it, they actually finished second last year.
Mm.
How worried do you think Jesse Marsch, the RB Leipzig coach, should be for his job? Because we've seen a lot of managers, and we'll get onto it later. We've seen a lot of managers get sacked. Is Jesse Marsch going to be one of the next sort of big club managers to end up, in getting the chop as well?
I think so. I think he needs to start really looking over his shoulder in that respect, because Leipzig, with the money that they've got and the backing they've got, yes, they don't necessarily they're not like City or what Newcastle could potentially be, but they've got the money and the investment to be pushing for top 4 every season. They're currently sat down in 7th. They're 3 points behind Leverkusen in 4th, but realistically they should be, as you say, pushing near the top of the league every year. It should be, in reality, a bit like the Premier League in a 3-horse race. It should be Bayern, Dortmund and Leipzig, and then the rest. But Union Berlin are having another cracking season. Freiburg are doing well. Wolfsburg are back up there as well. So there are teams are strengthening and playing well. It's only a matter of time before the Leipzig board are sat there going, we should be up there. We should be comfortably up there. But it's not looking promising. So, yeah, I think he really needs to sort of watch over himself and really start to be concerned and try and turn things around ASAP.
Yeah, I had a cheeky look at it earlier, and I think, RB Leipzig, they're not afraid to make a change if it's necessary, because they've had 9 different managers since their inception in 2009, and that just suggests to me that they won't have a problem making a change if they need to. So I can kind of see Jesse Marsch as being the next big profile manager to lose his job. And it's not nice talking about it, it's not nice seeing managers lose their jobs, but it's a job, and it's business. And if RB Leipzig are, kind of looking at this and thinking they're not achieving what they need to achieve at this level, then they have to make that change.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's the thing, as you say, it's a big club with a big board, and they expect results. And if they're not turning in the results, as you say, they're not afraid to make a change. What's that? 2009, 12 years, 9 managers.
Yeah. It's almost Watford, isn't it?
Yeah, not quite, but it's not far off. So yeah, that's the thing. It's they're not afraid to make a decision, and if things don't improve, then a decision will probably end up being made.
If you're interested in coming on the show for an Under the Floodlights special to talk about your favourite player or manager, please email the FFF2021@gmail.com or DM the FFF84 on Twitter. All contact details will be in the episode description. Hope you're all keeping safe, and thanks again for listening to the FFF.
Speaking about managers that could possibly and potentially lose their jobs and that have lost their jobs, we have to go on to the Premier League, because it's all been happening since we last chatted. So I'll just quickly go over it. Obviously, Dean Smith lost his job at Aston Villa, and he's now been appointed the new Norwich manager. Steven Gerrard is the new Villa manager. But the new manager at Rangers, where Steven Gerrard left that post, is now Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Eddie Howe is the new Newcastle manager. We've just seen yesterday, or was it today? I can't even remember. Everything's been happening. Yeah, good old Ollie G. He has now been sacked. And now the question is, who do Man United bring in as their manager? And I suppose that's a question that we have to sort of start on, really, is who do you think Man United will look to for their new boss?
Well, it's a bit of an odd one, because they've already said that they're going to appoint an interim manager. For me, if they're going to appoint an interim manager, then what was the point in getting rid of Solskjaer? I mean, the abysmal result at Watford was kind of the nail in the coffin, but the murmurs were already happening prior to that. And if that's not going to unsettle the manager and team, I don't know what is. But, I wouldn't have fired him and brought an interim one in. But if they're looking at, for next season, the only name that I can really think of off the top of my head is Zidane. It's the only name that springs to mind.
That's actually available, do you mean?
Well, yeah. I can't see there being any other names in the hat, which is why they might be waiting until the end of the season before, see what happens, see who is available at that time. But, they've gone through a raft of managers recently, and I don't know who they're gonna. It's a real toss of a coin. But if it's not Zidane, then I genuinely don't know who it's going to be.
That's the thing, because the sort of rumours and speculation at the moment seems to be pointing at the fact that Man United have got Pochettino as their main target. And if the first sort of response and reaction that I had from that was to think, why on earth would Pochettino leave what he has at PSG? He's got the likes of Messi, Mbappe, Neymar. I mean, the list goes on and on, especially with all the recruitments that they made with Ramos and Donnarumma. They've got an incredible team. I know Man United have great players. They've obviously got Ronaldo and Pogba, and they've got some really good players there. But the recruitment that has happened at Man United over the last 3 years has been appalling, because what they needed was not to bring in a Sancho and a Ronaldo. What they needed was steel in that central midfield, because if you've got like the likes of Ronaldo and Sancho and Rashford, like a really great attacking front three, that's brilliant. But if you've got, in my opinion, not the best midfield in McTominay and Fred, I mean, what's the point in having that incredible attack? Because it just doesn't offer much protection. And then just the defense itself. The defense is poor. I mean, Harry Maguire, paying 80 million for Harry Maguire. I think he can do better than he's doing at the moment, but he is having an absolute stinker, and he's just not the sort of captain material. I think they looked at Harry Maguire and thought he was going to be the next sort of Virgil van Dijk, but he's nowhere near that, in my opinion. He's really not. And I think they've made some really poor decisions when it comes to their recruitment.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the money that they've spent is more buy as many as you can and hope for the best kind of scenario. And some have turned out well and others not so much. I mean, I was looking through the other day the history of signings since Ferguson left, and the money they've spent on some of the bang average players, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I do feel a little bit for Solskjaer that he has spent a ridiculous amount of money on players. I think Ronaldo coming back wasn't his choice, and I think he's had to fit it in. He wanted Sancho. They got Sancho. Ronaldo becomes available, and I think between the board and Ferguson, I think they made the decision to bring Ronaldo back, and I think that's possibly unsettled things. But when people are saying that it was a disastrous time for him at Man United and stuff, the last 2 seasons they finished second and third. How much of a disaster is that? I mean, I know Man United are a big club by all intents and purposes, but when you've also got City, Chelsea, Liverpool, what do you want? You're guaranteed Champions League football. Yes, this year has been a bit of a stinker for him, but I feel sorry for him. Whereas I do feel sorry for Pochettino at PSG as well, because I don't think any of the signings are his. I mean, he's working with some of the world's best players. Donnarumma in goal is one of the best goalkeepers around. I think he lost his way a little bit at AC, but fantastic. Ramos, that was just a name. Messi, well, great player, don't get me wrong, absolutely phenomenal player, but they're not going to get many seasons out of him. I wouldn't leave PSG if I was him. Definitely wouldn't. Not for Man United, anyway.
I think the thing is with PSG, there at least appears to be some sort of an identity in terms of the recruitment, whereas with United, it just seems either top heavy in attack, and then weak in midfield, and in sort of defence, it's just not good enough. And I think you can at least look at PSG and think they've got quality sort of all over the pitch. Yeah, you can argue some of them are perhaps the older sort of scale of their footballing careers, but they're absolutely world class, and that's pretty much world class all over their sort of first 11. But yeah, I kind of feel a little bit for Solskjaer, but there was this sort of statement from a lot of ex-Man United players and people associated with United, and Gary Neville, I think, came out with a quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that Ole Solskjaer left Man United in good shape, and he's left them, kind of with the ship pointing in the right direction. I mean, yeah, like you say, last season and so on, he kind of has done, but the way that the confidence is completely drained out of that club at the moment, the way that the team is set up, and the way that the squad is just seems so imbalanced. I'm not sure he has left it in the right direction. I think it's a bit all over the place, and it's a bit manic, especially if you look at it. They are a bit of a laughing stock at the moment, and it kind of. But I'm at the same time, I don't think a lot of this is Solskjaer's fault. I think most of this is the board's fault, and the Glazers, whoever they've put in charge to deal with their footballing decisions. And I think this is another ex-Man U pro has sort of said this as well. He said that the people that are actually making the footballing decisions at Man United haven't got much footballing experience whatsoever, or any football knowledge, and that's exactly what it smacks of. It really does feel a lot like that. And the fact that they've got rid of Solskjaer, is that really the problem that they needed to resolve? I don't think it is. I think what they need to do is get better people working at the top of the club, and until they get that sorted, I think it's just going to be another merry-go-round in the old circus of Man United. And as a non-Man United fan, I'd be smacking my lips at it, because I absolutely love this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, is it Ed Woodward or something like that? I think is the guy who makes so many of the decisions. Yeah, he's a businessman. He's not he's a football fan, but he's not a football man, if that makes sense. He's not played the game and stuff. And I think the decisions that a lot of the people like that have made have just been the wrong decisions. As I say, the whole Ronaldo situation, I don't think that would have been Solskjaer's choice at all. And then they've got to fit him in. And then was it against Everton where he left him on the bench? And the criticism for him leaving him on the bench, I think they only drew 1-1. Then you're like, oh, you don't leave a player like Ronaldo on the bench. But if he's not fitting into the style or the formation that Solskjaer wanted, and he's had his hand forced in that respect because of decisions made by people up top. And I feel really sorry for Sancho as well. He's gone in there as this fantastic player, England player, amazing at Dortmund. And I joked with a couple of mates that I got that Man United fans. I said, why does Sancho want to go to a club that's going to ruin his career? He's fallen out of the England squad. He can barely get any minutes on the pitch because Ronaldo's been forced, he's been shoehorned into the team, and Sancho's just there twiddling his thumbs, and it's a real shame. But yeah, I think Solskjaer's been that scapegoat. I think maybe I've always thought he's a bit tactically inept. I don't think he's an amazing manager, but I think he has the club really at heart. He's very passionate about it, and well, as they said, he did that exit interview, as it were, where how many other managers actually do get the chance to do that once they're sacked? It was almost like a mutual decision kind of scenario. But yeah, I totally agree. I think it's just been a very scattergun approach. Buy as many players as possible and hope they fit. And I think that doesn't just go back to Solskjaer. I think that's been the way
ever since Ferguson left. Yeah.
Completely agree. I mean, I was looking, and in the time he was there, obviously Moisey was only there for 10 months. He signed 2 players. One of those was Fellaini, and the other was Mata. Now that was a good signing for United. He went on to actually do quite good things there. But after that, with Van Gaal and Mourinho, some of the names on there that they're spending 15, 20 million, 30 million on, and never to be seen again. And that's a lot of money for a player who's just going to sit in the squad or get loaned out to somewhere. You know, when you look at players like, look at teams like West Ham, where they've signed, what was it, Vlasic, I think was the most expensive player they signed this season. That was 30 million. Yet they're signing players like that. Man United to basically sit on the bench or get loaned back out. And it's terrible recruitment. But as you say, since Ferguson left, it's been terrible. I think the board have got too much power in that respect compared to a lot of places. But that's what they're after next. They'll be after another coach. They're not after a manager.
You mentioned West Ham. I might as well just ask you, do you think top 4 is a reasonable target for the Hammers this year?
I think top 6 is a reasonable target. The big concern for West Ham is their depth in their squad. What Moyes' done has been fantastic in the respect of he's had 2 teams. He's had the Europa League team. We've had an easy Europa League group. There's no doubt about it. There could have been a lot worse teams in there. So he's had the ability to rest those players on the Thursday night and play the first team on the Saturday or Sunday as it is. Obviously, you know from experience as well, the Europa League can get in the way, and it does really seem to impede people's or teams' form when it comes back to the Premier League. But Moyes has done brilliantly in that respect, and it's allowed them to still keep pushing for that top 4 place. It's early days, as I say, but I genuinely believe that the target should be for them to get back into Europe again, have a second season in Europe. You know, let's keep going in Europe as it is. Let's not throw it away. And yeah, let's see what happens after Christmas. You know, once they've qualified from the group officially, once they've obviously got through to Christmas and seen where they're still sat in the league. But they really do need to be targeting top 6. I think the way that Moyes has got the playing at the moment is fantastic. They look such a good team to watch as well. It's not just a scrappy 1-0 win here or 1-0 win there. It's really nice football. It's a little bit open at times. The injury to Ogbonna is going to be a real big one, because while he's getting on a bit, I think he's 32, 33, something like that. He seems to be hitting his prime. I've not seen him play as well as this for a good few seasons now.
Do you think that possibly led to the reason why you lost 1-0 this week at the weekend? I
think it was just a poor team performance, to be honest with you. Never really got going. They never really shift out of second gear, which is very unlike Moyes. And do you know what? Listening to his or reading his interview, I should say, after the game, he was like, yeah, full credit to them. They were better than us all over the pitch. And it was so true. I'm hoping it's the blip, you know, as we've already discussed with teams like Bayern and Pauli. I hope it's a blip and they can get back on form again. There's no reason why they shouldn't do. It was only a 1-0. It's not like they took a tanking and the defence looked like a sieve. It was genuinely just a rough weekend for all my boys, to be honest with you.
Well, speaking of blips, I hope it was a blip for Arsenal this weekend as well, because we did take a tanking, and that was really hard to watch. And it was annoying as well. It was frustrating because up until about the 40th minute, we really contained Liverpool. I mean, we didn't necessarily impose ourselves on them so much, but defensively, I think we did really well, and I was really proud of us up until that point where we just... I know we conceded a set piece goal, and which is really a big shame considering we've played so well in terms of our set piece, defensively and offensively this season. We've got a new set piece coach coming, and he's worked wonders. It was just such a shame and so ironic that we conceded a goal from a set piece, and then when that happened, I think our heads dropped, and we opened the floodgates. And Liverpool were you've got to give a lot of credit to the way Liverpool played at the weekend, because they were just absolutely on fire. And that was the Liverpool we've seen, win the Champions League and win the Premier League. They were absolutely on fire. And I think the fact that Arteta, I don't know if you saw, but he had a bit of a square off with good old Jurgen. And I think that really wound up the old Anfield crowd. And I think they didn't take to it lightly. So that really kind of changed the game as well. And yeah, we suffered from that. But I really hope that this is just a blip and we're going to be able to sort of turn the corner for the next match, especially because we're playing Newcastle as well. So yeah, that always helps.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think it's so funny going back to a couple of chats ago. Wow, it was probably quite a few more than a couple. But, when we were looking at it and Arteta was, he's going to be the first manager to be sacked and all this sort of stuff. It's just not going well. And now look at it, it's kind of like the Arsenal fans are all getting disheartened because they got tanked by Liverpool, who were, as you say, predominantly the best that Liverpool could be, which there's no shame in losing. I mean, when West Ham played them and won 3-2, that wasn't the same Liverpool. That wasn't Liverpool on form. They crank it up against you guys and, completely turn you over in what is now turning into actually a reasonably good Arsenal side. Arteta seems to have really got people to gel. And what is it, Ramsdale?
What a player.
Mate,
I think Jordan Pickford's got to be looking over his shoulder for the number one spot for England, because Ramsdale is hot on his heels. Yeah,
I agree. I think Southgate needs to be asking some questions, to be honest, because Pickford's been all right this season, but Ramsdale's been something else. And if you're picking players on form, there ain't many players out there who are in the form of their life. And he seems like a genuinely nice bloke as well. Obviously, he went over to the away fans after the Liverpool game and stuff. And I think it just shows that a real connected guy to the club, even though he's only been there for, in theory, a few games. It's not like he's been playing there for donkey's years. And he's not like Mark Noble, who's only ever been at the club. I did ask questions why they were signing the goalkeeper when they got Leno. Because he's not exactly a bad keeper, but then when something else comes along that's better and a price that you deem reasonable, you got to take your chance. And I think that was a stroke of genius by Arteta, to be honest with you.
I think everyone assumed, myself included, that Aaron Ramsdale was coming in as a number two. And like you say, if you're spending about 25-30 million on a number two goalkeeper, it's going to raise a lot of questions. But that wasn't the case. He was brought in as a number one, and I think it's a genius move, a genius move. And I think all of our recruitment this year has been really positive. I don't think there's any, possibly Martin Odegaard hasn't really hit the ground running like he did last year for his loan spell, but I think that'll come. Martin Odegaard's a quality player. He's definitely got, in him to have a decent season. And, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's having a bad season. He's just, like I said, just not sort of shown the levels that he can give us. But yeah, I think bar that, all of our recruitment has been really good.
I think Arteta's doing a great job with the tools that he's been given. And as I say, signing Ramsdale was a stroke of genius, mate. As you say, when you're spending that kind of money and you're like, well, he's not going to come in and oust Leno, but you're spending that much on a number two? Nah, he's come in and he's hit the ground running. One of the signings of the season, I have to say. I genuinely believe that already. He's already showing his worth. He's one of the most talked about players in the league at the moment. Even I think he's talked about more than players like Ronaldo and stuff. It was meant to be, hail Ronaldo's second coming, and the next thing you know, we're all talking about this goalkeeper. He's just been out of this world. So,
did you see his save against Leicester, by the way?
No, I didn't. No. I'll have
phenomenal.
To YouTube it later.
Yeah, I'll send you a link, mate. But it's it was a save against a James Maddison free kick, and how on earth he gets to it. It's now my favourite ever save. I know I'm a bit biased being an Arsenal fan, but my favourite ever save before that was David Seaman against Sheffield United in I think it was the FA Cup final, where it was kind of, the ball was a little bit behind him and it was like something out of the Matrix. But this save from Ramsdale was just how he gets over, because it's usually when you see a free kick and when goalkeepers on one side, usually they're on, the sort of their near side where the wall is covering. That's usually where the free kick taker will sort of place the ball, and it's usually 9 times out of 10 you don't really see a keeper getting over. But for some reason, I don't know how Ramsdale manages it, but he manages to make so much coverage of the goal and just get over there in such a short amount of time, because Maddison kicks it with some power as well. It's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. But
great player.
Yeah,
James Maddison's a great player, and his set pieces are absolutely fantastic. And a little bit of trivia here: he was actually, I think it was David Moyes in his first spell, I think it was, that actually turned down signing him for West Ham, and now look at him. So great player, James Maddison. But yeah, send us that link, mate, because I want to check that out, because his set pieces are fantastic.
I think you mentioned them earlier, but you said West Ham's sort of record signing over the summer. Who was that?
Vlasic.
Oh, right. Okay. I've never heard of that player, especially if he was your record sort of signing.
Well, he was the most expensive signing this summer. He's not our record. That's still Haller, which is a 4 point after what he's doing at Ajax, which we mentioned prior to actually coming on to the chat. We said obviously how well Ajax are doing, and part of that is down to Haller. He's not just doing it in the Eredivisie, he's also doing it in the Champions League as well. And I think most West Ham fans are a little bit bitter about that. But play to his style and he'll score you goals. It's always the way. But Vlasic was 33 million. He's played hardly any games at all. And you know what? He's had a lot of criticism already, because, it's a lot of money for West Ham to spend on a player. People are saying he should be doing better and he should be playing into the first team. But, when you're third or fourth in the league and you've got Benrahma Bowen, Fornals is playing as what a player he is, Antonio on top, who do you replace? And that's the key thing. He's played...
he's just got to bide his time, really, isn't he?
Yeah. And do you know what? That's what he said. He's come out and said this as well. He's come out and said, you don't change a team that's winning. It's as simple as that. He's played a few of the Europa League games where he's shown some real good moments, but just not enough. Moyes has been brilliant in bringing players through. If you look at Benrahma last season and then look at him this season, you've got two completely different players there. Bowen was really off the boil towards the end of the season. This season, completely different player. I have a feeling that Moyes is going to do that with Vlasic as well. He just has that knack, and he knows what he's gone out and he knows what he's bought. So he's not going to just turn his back on him, and he's not a David Sullivan signing. It is actually a player that Moyes wanted. So give him time and he'll come right. I wouldn't want it to happen, never, but I think if one of those front guys got injured, then that's when he would really stake a claim for the team, come in, play 3, 4, 5 games consecutively, and then we'll really start to see what's happening once he's slotted in. Because the other side of it as well, in the Europa League, he's playing with other fringe players as well. Lanzini can't get in our team, and they're saying it's the end of the line for him at West Ham. They reckon he'll be sold in the summer, if not January. But then he's starting in the Europa League games as well. So it's not like he's slotting into the first team. He's slotting into a partially disjointed team who have done amazing in Europe, but he hasn't got the support of first teamers all around him. Like, let's hypothetically say Benrahma gets injured. He's not playing then alongside Fornals, Antonio, Bowen, Rice, Souček. He's not playing with that unit. So, I think give him time and he'll come good. He'll come good. If not this season, next season.
If you like football films, then come check out the Triple F Cinema, where I'm joined by guests sometimes football fans, sometimes not, to review a specific football film. Give me 2 tickets to that football film right now.
Just before we wrap things up, I know you mentioned about Ajax and obviously the Sebastian Haller connection there, but Ajax doing so well. And what I kind of wanted to mention as well, and we talked about it, like you say, just before we started recording, is how Ajax are absolutely flying at the moment. They're doing fantastically well. And considering there's so many managers that are up in the air and there's so many positions and vacancies, what I always sort of scratch my head over, and I mentioned this in the last podcast to Oliver, is how on earth no teams are really considering Erik ten Hag as a viable possibility as a manager, especially big clubs. Because I think Erik ten Hag is somebody that can definitely cut it at a big club, and I think Man United should really consider Erik ten Hag as a viable option. But for whatever reason, these big clubs aren't doing it. Tottenham, there was sort of rumours that they were lining him up at one point, but why on earth they didn't, do their utmost to sort of push the boat out is beyond me.
Yeah, I agree. I have seen his name mentioned for the Man United job, but it was like, Man United would prefer in the summer to sign XYZ rather than. And it's like,
what's he done wrong? Like what, he deserves. I mean, Ajax are a big club, so I don't want to, sort of put any disrespect on Ajax's name, because he could just see out the rest of his career at Ajax and stay at Ajax forever. But, big clubs, just in my opinion, big clubs would be foolish to not consider him.
With Ajax, it's a team with, I want to say, limited resources. They just seem to have a fantastic production line of young talent who played for them for a couple of seasons. They get, brought through into the team, have 1 or 2 good seasons with them, get sold for a buttload of money, and then that just gets reinvested in the whole thing, and the train just keeps on rolling like that. But it actually seems like they've gone out and spent some money, and they've got some players that are older than like 21 and stuff in their team, which is really unusual. But the fact that he can bring through these youth players and make them into players that clubs basically want to buy, the big clubs want to buy. Surely a big club should take a punt on him to then bring through the young players to feed into their first team and not just sell on. I mean, we've obviously already spoken about RB Leipzig. That would be an interesting one.
Yeah, he's worked in Germany before, because he was the youth manager of Bayern Munich, like when Pep Guardiola was there. So yeah, that would definitely make sense.
And that's the thing. I mean, I quite often go back to the Bundesliga and stuff, because it's where I'm at the moment. And I can see him quite happily slotting into German football with the real emphasis in the Bundesliga and throughout Germany of promoting youth. I mean, there are players playing in other leagues that are older than some of the managers that are managing in the leagues in Germany. But they have a real thing about, that's why we obviously lost Sancho and a few other players who left youth academies and went over to Germany. Well, if he's got that ability to bring through those players, and as you say, if he's already coached the youth setup at Bayern, it's obviously where he's at and he can bring these players through. So why not take a punt, and why not go for a job in Germany? I think that would be a good fit. And, as you say, Leipzig might be coming up soon. And there might be a few others as well. I know there are a few teams in Germany who do like a bit of a hire and fire kind of scenario, pretty much as I would have expected. The teams down the bottom are who I would expect to be. So I can't see him going to one of those. It would probably be more of one of the mid-table, maybe, your Gladbachs or Leverkusen's, teams like that historically sort of hover around the Europa League places. Why not bring him on, get him in at Wolfsburg, that kind of team that'll bring those players through. So yeah, that's who needs to take a punt on him. And it's a shame he hasn't had a big job yet, mate, because he's done fantastic at Ajax.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to have seen it, because love to see him at Arsenal at some point. But I was really surprised that he didn't end up at Spurs. But you know, and I really do think Man United should consider him, because with Pochettino, he's a good manager, he's a decent manager, but Pochettino will come with a high price. I think you can probably get Erik ten Hag for a bit cheaper. So it would just make a lot of sense. But having said that, I think Ajax are going to be trying to hold on to him as much as possible.
Yeah. I think that's the thing as well. When you look at those teams you mentioned, I think Spurs are trying to get instant success. They don't seem to put a massive amount on promoting youth. Man United, on the other hand, would be a better option when you've had players like Rashford, Greenwood, McTominay, all of those players sort of that come through. Or
you'd be joining up with Donny van de Beek as well, which would make
exactly a player who's really lost his way at United, which is a real shame, because the guy's got some serious talent.
Yeah, it was just handled atrociously by Solskjaer, though, wasn't it? Van de Beek situation.
It boils down to what we were saying before. Who made that signing? You know, was it a board signing? And you know, he plays well in the Ajax team and in the Champions League, where he was really excelling for a few seasons. So, you know, all of a sudden United, the board buy him, and Solskjaer's like, doesn't really fit into what I want to do, and sticks with McTominay and Matic and Pogba, and it's a real shame, because the guy's got talent, and there's been rumblings already that, you know, Real Madrid are sniffing around and stuff. Well, they don't sniff around your average players, you know. It's just, he has been treated really badly, and it's a real shame. He was promised first team football this season, and I think he's barely had a look in again. So it's a real shame. But I think that would be a good move to United. I can't see it happening. They want a big name, as it were, and they'll go for, you know, your Poches and stuff like that who are managing PSG, because it's the name that they want.
Yeah, I think whatever decision they'll make, it'll probably inevitably end up being a mistake. And like I've said to you before, long may it continue.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Their downturn is definitely our gains.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, Mike, thanks again for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And I'll get you on the show again, and let's see what sort of treats and footballing gems will unearth for us when we hook up again, because it seems to be every time we have a chat, there's all sorts to talk about.
Yeah, always a drama, mate. Always a drama, innit?
Exactly. Right, Mike. All the best, mate.
Yeah, you too, mate. You take it easy.
Thank you so much for listening to the Triple F. If you could please drop a like on our Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter, that would be massively appreciated. Hope you're all keeping safe, and thanks again for listening to the Triple F.